Hello, Kirby again, as we launch into the 13th episode of Zoo Crew Revue, where we will be reviewing the 12th issue of Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew, and pair it with the classic Looney Tunes short, Bugs and Thugs. Our cover is pencil and ink by Scott Shaw as always, and this is easily one of my favorite covers of the whole series, with the zoo crew defeated with some really dynamic angles and expressions to them, as only Shaw can really provide, as the new hero steps up to the plate in the villain's shadow. This is Be Kind to Funny Animals Week, but somebody's not paying attention. Keep back, little cheese. You're not big enough to fight Fat Cat. Just watch me, Whiskers. Introducing the mightiest Minnie Mouse of all. Of Mice and Menace has a cover date of February 1983 and on sale date of November 24th, 1982. Our story is written and penciled by Scott Shaw, inked by Al Gordon, lettered by Carrie Spiegel, colored by Thomas J. Zucco, and edited by Roy Thomas. It is so great to have Shaw back on art and writing after the last couple of issues, because right away we are shown some truly dynamic shots and poses on our opening page, as we get a nice nighttime exterior shot of the Z building before we cut in on Pig Iron threatening Roger Rodney Rabbit cowering behind his drawing board. Come on, let's get this beep thing over with, huh? You hear me, buddy boy? I ain't putting up with much more of this stalling. Keep your steel wool shirt on, Pig Iron. These things take time. Listen, you runny rabbit, don't give me this routine. I'm giving you just 5 more minutes. Then your time runs out, and I make my move. Sure. On the next 2 pages, we get a nice 2/3 splash revealing Pig Iron to be posing for one of Roger Rodney Rabbit's comics in his studio, decorated with all sorts of comic paraphernalia, including a Moon Knight parody, whom I can only assume is called Bun Knight. This is probably included because there is a special note of thanks to both Bob Smith and Bill Sienkiewicz. I mean it. Not only is it past this little piggy's bedtime, but this posing stuff can give a fella like me a bad case of mental fatigue. Besides, I got an itch that's killing me. Don't sweat it, Pig Iron. You might just rest solid in that pose. Permanently. Anyway, I'm nearly done with this cover for that special Batmouse vs. the Hog tabloid comic. Rush jobs. But can you do me one more small favor, big guy? Please don't call me Somehow it sounds like Popeye the Sailor Dog when he's laughing. We are shown that the rabbit's latest drawing is a direct homage to JLGL's Batman vs. the Hulk cover, and just going to say it, the Hog is a better joke than the Spider-Ham's Hulk Bunny. While bemoaning to himself that he has to pull another all-nighter for his editor, Duck Giordano, Roger accidentally gets ink all over Little Cheese. Hey, just watch where you parked your brush, you big jerk. I just washed my hair. Leaping legumes. I must be hallucinating from overwork. Hey, he's gone. Vanished. Zilch. As our new hero shrinks out of sight. Elsewhere in the Z building, Fastback and Rubber Duck are hanging out in the games room, with Fastback having burned out the Atari game console because of his super speed reflexes, whilst Rubber Duck talks of the superiority of pinball machines, mostly because he can cheat at them. And Shaw includes a really nice detail of Rubber Duck having twisted his arm, pulling the lever to resemble a pinball spring. I really do like seeing the two of these mismatched characters just hanging out together, and I wish we have seen more of this up to this point. I think there's a lot of room for comedy here, in a way that just doesn't work with like Fastback and Yankee Poodle. Fastback asks, Say, why ain't a big-time celebrity like y'all, Bird Rentals, having a wild night out on the town? Hey, I just wound up the promotional tour for my latest flick, The Worst Little Hen House in Texas. I deserve an evening of sheer goofing off. Still, I wonder what Doggy Pottin's doing tonight. That's a totally appropriate reference for the kids to get. And yes, I know it's not as saucy a movie as I want it to be. And as Rubber Duck is running up the highest score, he aims the pinball towards Little Cheese, who's running in the machine, before realizing that something isn't right, and Little Cheese disappears once again. Fastback, take a gander at this. Forget it. It's gone. What's gone? What's left of my mind? Very possibly. Alley Tabra is in her personal quarters, admiring her newly sewn cape, now with a hood, while thinking how it was good to sew it by hand instead of using her nigh omnipotent magic as a shortcut. Realizing the hour, she's about to turn in for the night, but not before Little Cheese pops in. What's this? A pint-sized peeping Tom? Hiya, Tabby. Excuse me, but... The name, intruder, is Alley Tabra, not Tabby. And I'll listen to your excuses after Magic Wanda has rendered you helpless. As she conjures up a mousetrap to hold the miniature mouse by his tail midair. But to get her attention, Little Cheese finally demonstrates that he can grow to normal size and that he needs to talk to the Zoo Crew. But before he can talk to them, Yankee Poodle is in her civilian disguise of Rova Barkett, having a glitzy Follywood dinner with Burt Reynolds' agent, Swiftly LaFleur, whom we met back in issue 7. On this page, we get a bunch of shoutouts, such as Woodsy Owlin and Raccoon Welch, but my favorite is Orson Wales, but for some reason is a hippo, posts exactly like his wine commercial. And total side note, if you have never heard the leaked audio of Orson Welles is doing an ad for frozen peas, it is well worth your time. And at the mention of the Zoo Crew, LaFleur mentions how he wants a poster option for Alley Tabra, making Rova turn green with envy, opening up her compact mirror where Alley Tabra herself appears, telling her that Yankee Poodle is needed back at HQ quick. Rova makes up an excuse as she dashes off about having an interview with Farrah Fawcett, not realizing that she's in the restaurant as well. As Yankee Poodle comes dashing in to join the rest, Captain Carrot is holding up Little Cheese in his hand. Okay, you Pipsqueaker. What are you doing snooping around our high security headquarters? Believe it or not, I've been looking for you, Captain Carrot. I did run into a scrawny-looking rabbit, but I knew he couldn't be the leader of the amazing Zoo Crew. Oh, that was a cartoonist friend of ours. He works here, sometimes. Reference material, you see? Before thinking to himself, good thinking that scrawny cartoonist got a chance to privately nibble a few cosmic carrots. Which just goes to show that this series takes more time and effort for secret identities than any modern superhero comic. How about that, Rubber Duck? Guess you weren't having them hallucinations. I almost wish I was. Yankee Poodle makes a great first impression as always, mistaking Little Cheese for a doll, causing the two of them to begin to spat, before the mouse declares himself to be one of the good guys. He drops to the floor and begins growing himself back to normal height like the Atom or Ant-Man. I call myself Little Cheese, the Micro Mouse. I considered using the name Minnie Mouse, but I thought I could do without any copyright hassles from Wart Grizzly Productions. I hear their lawyers are tougher than any supervillain. Pig Iron is amazed. Wowee, the little shrimp just changed size into a jumbo shrimp. But Cap just wants some answers, so Little Cheese begins narrating his origin story. Chester Cheese, that's me. I am, make that was, the star player on my school's basketball team. I was the shortest center that Follywood High's hoopsters had ever had, but what I lacked in size, I more than made up in points. But no matter how loud the crowd cheered, I was only hearing one voice, my Pops. Pop, Dr. Edam Cheese, never missed a game. He was my biggest fan. Even though being a typical absent-minded lab rat, he kept yelling for me to get a touchdown. Pop was doing research work for the government, mostly astrophysics stuff, specializing in the moon. That guy was one sharp American cheese. That's more cheese jokes than an episode of Frasier. Speaking of cheese, remember that chunk of cheese the astronauts discovered up there? The lunar longhorn, they called it. Well, that was just one of Pop's hush-hush research projects. As we are shown the astronauts on the moon. Hoxton Control, we found a natural deposit of what appears to be, solidified dairy products? Little Cheese also makes mention of having lost his mom at an early age, So between that, being a basketball playing jock with a scientist father, I can't help but think that there wasn't some Firestorm influence to his character. And he also mentions that despite being a jock, Little Cheese, because of his dad, was a fan of science fiction and fantasy, including Batmouse comics, hence leading to his eventual meeting with the Zoo Crew. His origin continues that one day after practice, Chester Cheese got accosted by some gangsters in the high school hallways, that their boss wants to meet them, smoking and clearly packing a gun. And look, I know this was the 80s, but you'd think that there'd be some vetting going on. Chester tries to tell them to buzz off, but the two gangsters just punch him, sending him flying into some lockers, dazing him, before hauling him off to see their boss. After coming to a bit, Chester finds himself in a high-rise building meeting the head of the local mafia. And this page has some really great inking and coloring to cast shadows over Chester's face as he is put into a corner and looks terrified. Chester, you may call me Fat Cat. I do everything in a big way. I play games in a big way. Wonderful! What do you got? A 50-foot Parcheesi board? Look it! I don't want to seem rude, but first the Goon sisters here rough me up, then drag me across town and now. Chester, I enjoy placing wagers on games. Big games. Oh, come on! Quit playing games with me! What's your point, huh? My point, Chester, is your points. Rather, your basketball team's points. It is the #1 team in the city. You are your team's #1 player. Soon you will be playing the big playoff game. You will lose. Big. I, on the other paw, will win. Big. What I like here is that trying to strong arm the kid into a point shaving scheme is really kind of realistic, and it is played just as straight as if this was a normal superhero comic. What? Me throw the big game? You gotta be kidding! On the contrary, Chester, I'm serious. Dead serious. You see, I have placed a big wager on that game. But against the Follywood team. Quite a long shot, actually. Speaking of shots, Fat Cat, here's one I owe you! Before he punches Fat Cat right into the breadbasket and makes his escape, Fat Cat tells his goons to stand down. Desist, you morons. Let the little rat go. He'll soon learn he's barely begun to play in my cat and mouse game. Mad Dog, fetch me my catnip. Medical strength. Chester runs all the way out of the city back to his dad's lab in the back of their house, only to discover his father's corpse. We actually see Chester crying as his dad's blood drips from his hand. And I'm just amazed that this passed through higher editorial, because this is really dark. Fat Cat, still lurking in the shadows, knocks Chester out and leaves him locked in his dad's high-tech security lab/vault, presumably to let him starve to death. However, Chester discovers the moon cheese in the lab's fridge and eats it, quickly feeling queasy, and he starts to shrink, soon finding himself free of the lab. One aspect that I really do like is that it seems the moon cheese does not have any kryptonite influences, like the rest of the Zoo Crew, because not every superhero universe should have all of their origins tied together. Chester continues that even after his dad's murder and moving in with his aunt, he never gave up on basketball, but on the court for the big game, with the mob in attendance, he inadvertently shrinks mid-pass, vanishing out of sight, causing his team to lose and the mob win. The two goons poking their head into the locker room after the game, where Chester has been able to regrow. Between yous and your old man, you're really for eating the kitty. Chester ends his origin. That's when it hit me. Fat Cat was behind my pop's murder. He had to be. My father was his real target for techno-piracy. Making book on high school sports was just a big bucks hobby to Fat Cat. Jeez, everything's just a game to that second-rate squidny Mean Street. Meanwhile, I lose my friends, my teammates, my father. As the Zoo Crew weep in sympathy. And again, this is just as legitimate. If this was not a funny animal book, this would be another superhero's origin, without a doubt, and you wouldn't blink twice at any aspect of it. Chester does tell them that he was able to control his shrinking ability and began to train to be a superhero. And we get some really good shots of him, like, muscle training by lifting a phone and jumping rope with a shoestring, etc. And the Zoo Crew try to warn him that this is real life and not a funny book, and that it should be left to the professionals.
Hey, I'm not looking for glory, or revenge for that matter. I just want some justice. Fat Cat's not stupid, and his lawyers and accountants are even tougher than his gun cells. Legally, he's untouchable. But if I could get my paws on evidence, Fat Cat's secret files and stuff.
Gotcha, little cheese. Well, what do you say, Zoo Crew? Want to see if there's more than one way to skin a fat cat? Really, Captain, that's disgusting. Oops, sorry, Abra. Gang, this is gonna be really risky. If any of us get caught before we can get the goods on Fat Cat, the police and his lawyers will make Dr. Hoot seem like a lovebird by comparison. Here's what we'll do. In the dark of the night, Rubber Duck and Little Cheese scale the side of Fat Cat's apartment building, with Rubber Duck zigging in and out of the balconies on each floor. And once they reach Fat Cat's apartment, the duo need to hear what the feline felon is saying, so Rubber Duck stretches his way into the air duct with Little Cheese in hand. Unfortunately, their cover is blown because Fat Cat was getting stuffy, and when they turn on the AC, the two heroes get blown right into the crooks' hands. Tell me, what's a nice duck like you doing in a duct like this? And who's this diminutive do-gooder? One of your Zoo Crew teammates, no doubt. Secure guess, boys. The two henchmen have tied Rubber Duck into all manner of knots with himself, trapping Little Cheese in his neck. It's lucky for us you don't do macrame. Droll, Rubber Duck. Actually, I was thinking of saving you for a game of cat's cradle. But Rubber Duck whispers to Little Cheese not to worry because he figures the Zoo Crew are worrying about them by this point. Back at the Z building, he's proven right. Really, darlings, the utter inconvenience of it all, standing vigil while Bird and some teenage twerp trapeze around playing Mission Implausible. They really are taking their time, aren't they? Hop to it, gang. Let's check out the sordid situation via the Zoo Cruiser. And we do get an editor's note that this is after the Salamandroid attack, so again, nice little continuity detail. In the Los Antelopes skyline, the rest of the Zoo Crew are able to find Fat Cat's building based on Little Cheese's description. Keeping the Zoo Cruiser hovering silently in autopilot in the night sky, Alley Cat Tabra is able to quietly levitate them down onto the roof. Pig Iron grumbles,
Gotta be quiet. Sneaky. Whatever happened to the direct approach? Ugh.
Shh, Pig Iron, look out for the skylight. As he crashes down to Fat Cat's interrogation. He can't deal with this intruder immediately. Fill him full of lead in your vernacular.
Looks like somebody's beat us to that, boss.
With the element of surprise gone, the rest of the Zoo Crew leap down, untangling Rubber Duck and Little Cheese, the latter of whom thinks he better snoop around, solo, whilst Pig Iron is pulling himself out of the hole he made in the floor.
Beeping cheap building materials.
Fat Cat attempts to flee, but not without providing a distraction. Using some of the stolen technology from Dr. Edam Cheese, he unleashes attack drones on the Zoo Crew. And to note, the drones all have Mickey Mouse silhouette heads, just in case we weren't skirting the copyright laws enough in this episode. And what follows is one of my favorite cells of the whole series to date, as the Zoo Crew fight the drones. The valiant varmints defend themselves with agility, brute strength, ancient sorcery, biomagnetic force, red-hot super friction, and resilient restraint. What a team! I really have reached the opinion that the Zoo Crew is just a legitimate superhero team as any other, and that they really need to be brought back in an ongoing series in a non-ironic way. During the scuffle, Fat Cat has put on another stolen invention that has a lot of Doc Ock-like tentacles sprouting from the back of it, but it does look like it's coming out of his butt. I suggest you ponder this electronic belt device. True to its name, it can transform me instantly into a cat of nine tails. But Captain Carrot is not having any of it. You can skip the futuristic fashion show, Anchovy Breath. We've seen enough of your murder machines to last all 9 of Alley Cat Tabra's lifetimes. But you've never seen anything like this, little gizmo. With its 9 fully articulated appendages, it not only slices, chops, steams, purees, and juliennes, it deep fries too. Before the cat of nine tails zaps the captain unconscious, the rest of the zoo crew pounce towards Fat Cat, but unfortunately they meet the same fate. I don't mean to be a party pooper gang, but Face's gadget there still outnumbers us tail-wise 9-5. So, what does a Jane Fonda movie gotta do with The zoo crew soon awaken in an empty chamber, with Fat Cat standing over them, having changed into something similar to a spacesuit. Your sudden lethargy is far from surprising, considering the fact that you're all helplessly bound by a localized, artificial gravitational force, 3 times stronger than that of the Earth itself. This exosuit emanates an anti-gravitational field to compensate the incredible pressure here in my gravity chamber. Both fields are regulated by my stooges, associates in that control booth.
You see, Gat? I told you the boss offers a dynamite trainee program.
On my instructions, they're slowly increasing the gravity in this chamber. Oh, I see you've already noticed that fact. To think, in the old days, we'd be doing this with such crudities as submachine guns and cement overshoes. And now, I don't know what I'd do without these small conveniences. Wouldn't you agree, Captain Squash, Alley Splat, Abra, Flatback, Yankee Puddle, Pig Ironed, Ruptured Duck? Strange, I thought I'd counted 7 super pests. I just love this page. This is just some true blue supervillain trap and some excellent wordplay just on top of all of that. Little Cheese has snuck into the control booth through a crack in the wall and is happy that he knows that it is shielded against the gravity, given that it is one of his father's inventions. The 2 goons do spot him and begin opening fire, but our Tiny Titan announces himself before leaping up and knocking out the thugs. While not knowing the details of how the gravity chamber works, Little Cheese just starts ripping out wires.
Tearing out this circuit ought to release my Zoo Crew pals. And since Fat Cat's exosuit operates on a different circuit, it'll now be overcompensating against the... Oh, who cares anyway? Let me just see the results. Wow!
And we see that Fat Cat is now stuck to the ceiling, and Little Cheese has saved the day. Phew, now I know what the fruit at the bottom of the bowl feels like. Wait a second, the heavy gravity's been shut off. Which one of our heroes saved the day? And what is Fat Cat doing up there?
Don't ask me, Cap. I just can't handle them heavy subjects. Yeah.
Face facts, Fat Cat. It's lonely at the top. Yeah, what's wrong, fella? You gotta calm down, mellow out, lighten up. Okay, here, folks. I figure I've located our little rescuer. Little Cheese, thank Cal Khan you're safe.
Oh, cut it out, gang.
As the morning sun rises back at the Z building, Rubber Duck and Pig Iron are reading the early edition of how incriminating evidence has put Fat Cat and his goons behind bars for life. Pig Iron happily states that Little Cheese would make an excellent addition to the team and that they should vote him in. However, Captain Carrot, looking solemnly out the window, says, I don't know, Ball Britches. I mean, think about Little Cheese. Chester. He's been through a lot lately.
Live it up, Cappy. Like the beer ad says. And now, it's Swilla time.
He needs time to sort things out for himself. By himself.
Hey, a guy's gotta have somebody to yak with.
You know, Pig Iron, I've got a feeling Chester's talking with that someone right now. As we cut to Little Cheese at his father's grave.
Hiya, Pop. I want to tell you about all the changes I've been going through, Pop. I've shrunk, And maybe I've grown a little too.
But the bottom half of the page announces the next issue the Zoo Crew will have to tangle with the frozen fowl known as Cold Turkey. And in the issue after that, prepare for Crisis on Earth C as the Zoo Crew meet the Just a Lot of Animals with Pig Iron asking,
"What's this then? A dream? A hoax? Or an imaginary story?"
"Fray not, Pig Iron. It's real, all right," Roger Rabbit answers as Scott Shaw and Roy Thomas's animal personas just groan. But while this is a good image and has some laughs, I kind of wish it was left out of the issue, so it could have ended with some real pathos of little Cheese at his father's grave. After going through this whole issue while recording, I think this might be my favorite single issue of the series. First off, it is great having Shaw back on full time for the art. Again, he just brings a certain life and energy and details to the art that, for as good as some of the other artists' art, it's just not him. He also really understands the humor and characters in a way I don't think Bridwell ever quite matched. I have said it before and I will say it again. This series works best when the superheroics are taken straight at face value and the humor is just laced on top of it. And this issue is like any issue of Justice League or Avengers where you are given a brand new character's origin right in the middle of the issue before giving the team some action beats at the end, and you show why the new hero should join the team. And the biggest downside is that Little Cheese I don't think appears again until the last issue of the ongoing. And I think that is a really missed opportunity. You could have had him be the team's little brother, where they're taking on extra caution to make sure that he isn't hurt and such. And, just kind of brings an extra, maybe a little bit of joy as he's taking on this new life. And with that, let's get on to our Looney Tunes pairing. Bugs and Thugs was originally released on March 13th, 1954. Directed by Friz Freleng, story by Warren Foster, produced by Edward Seltzer, starring Mel Blanc, music by Milt Franklin, animation by Manuel Perez, Ken Chapin, Virgil Ross, and Arthur Davis. Layouts by Holly Pratt, and backgrounds by Irv Werner. This short is Milt Franklin's first solo venture on music, and he'll be trading off with Carl Stalling until the latter's retirement in 4 years. I considered doing a Speedy Gonzales in honor of Little Cheese, but I wanted to save him for another episode down the line. Hubie and Birdie shorts are usually good, I just wasn't feeling it, and there was no way I was going to do a Sniffles the Mouse cartoon, because even as a kid I found him too cute by half, and I think Chuck Jones would agree, and I really wanted to make sure I covered Bugs and Thugs at some point during this series, and with Fat Cat and his organized crime in this issue, I figured I would never have a better opportunity. Going into the short, I will mention that it is a semi-remake of the short Racketeer Rabbit. However, Rocky has been dramatically overhauled in design, now looking like a diminutive gangster whose hat brim always covers his eyes instead of an Edward G. Robinson caricature, and Muggsy is brand new to this short. The short begins with Bugs emerging out of his rabbit hole in a city park, reading the newspaper of how rabbit season has started and that he's glad he's missing it, totally oblivious to the cars whizzing by while he's walking in the middle of the street. Today, he'd be on a smartphone, and I can't explain why, but that would make this joke a lot less funny. It's like there's something funnier about Homer making calls to the White House and NASA on a payphone in Moe's bar than if he was on a cell phone. Bugs walks into the bank and takes some carrots out of his safe deposit box. Walking back out, he gets into the getaway car Muggsy is driving, mistaking it for a taxi, while Rocky is having a robbery shootout. Rocky gets back into the car with sacks full of cash, which Bugs mistakes for laundry. Pulling a gun on Bugs, Rocky asks him how much he knows. Bugs just starts lifting off random trivia like Carson City is the capital of Nevada, and George Washington was the first president. Rocky says that he knows too much, and Bugs really starts getting motor-mouthed after being told to shut up. Bugs then asks Muggsy to pull into a nice, clean gas station, and then asks him for a nickel. Bugs tries to call the police from the telephone booth, but Rocky and Muggsy pull him out, taking the phone wire and the cop with him before the two get literally disconnected. And stopping on a train track as the bell goes off, Rocky asks Bugs to see if the coast is clear. Bugs nods, his face briefly transforming into an imitation of Muggsy. And Bugs tells him that the coast is clear, and the two thugs begin to drive over the tracks, only to get hit by a train. There's just some really impeccable comedic timing right there. At gunpoint, Bugs is forced to fix their car as the thugs are bruised and battered. Eventually tells them that all is well, but they are missing a tire and stuck. Rocky tells them that they're not stuck, he's stuck, and Bugs is forced to run along, lifting the car up in place of the tire as the thugs drive, taking the scenic route. Finally arriving at their hideout, Rocky tells Muggsy to let him have it. Muggsy takes Bugs into another room, laughing evilly while he locks the door. Bugs quickly takes advantage of the ambiguous syntax and Muggsy being a total idiot by telling him, let him have it, meaning give Bugs the gun. We then hear from outside the room, the gun goes off, and a now shot, ashen-faced Muggsy stumbles out of the room, letting Rocky know that he let him have it. And what follows might be two of the tightest minutes of comedy in any Looney Tunes short, as Bugs, still in the other room, begins making police siren noises, sending Rocky and Muggsy into a panic. Rocky first asks Muggsy to hide him, and Bugs hides him in the oven before Muggsy begs Bugs to hide him too. Bugs turns to the camera and says, I must be dreaming. It can't be this easy, before stuffing Muggsy into the oven as well. Continuing the ruse, Bugs starts jumping back and forth between voices, impersonating a very Irish cop. Where's Rocky? He's not in the stove. Oh ho! He's hiding in that stove, eh? Now, would I turn on this gas if my friend Rocky was in there? You might, Rabbit, you might. Well, would I throw in a lighted match if my friend Rocky was in there? Causing the oven to explode, and convincing the cop that Rocky isn't there and that he'll go check in the city. Bugs then tells Rocky and Muggsy that the coast is clear as the two come stumbling out of the oven, just as the actual police arrive. Bugs stuffs the two back into the oven as a real cop with an identical voice to the one Bugs was impersonating shows up and repeats the stove bit. But before Bugs can throw another lit match into the gas-filled oven again, Rocky and Muggsy burst out, begging the cop to arrest them. The short ends with Bugs, now being a private eye, answers the phone in his office saying, Thugs thwarted, counterfeiters caught, and chiselers chiseled. This short is just one of my favorites because the Rocky and Muggsy dynamic is great. You have seen them parodied specifically 1,000 times with a shut up Muggsy. Bugs getting the better of them time and again is just a delight, and you don't feel bad because they are just flat out crooks. And like I said, the last 2 minutes are just utter perfection that I have almost perfectly memorized. And in the off chance that you have not seen this short, I strongly recommend that you seek it out. Well, I got nothing left to say, but that's all, folks!